Good morning. It's time for another video. Today's notes are going to be called On the Set, and this is what they look like. Dun, dun, dun. I think it's very, I don't know, but it says On the Set. So we are going to talk about today what happens once you get on the set. So after you book a job, what happens once you get there? So it says, yay, you've booked a gig. Now remember, in theater, a gig is a job. Okay, it's also like in people who do music and stuff. You've heard that before, like, oh, I got a gig tonight. Oh, I've cooked a gig. So that is it. So booking is your contract. So if you contract a job, that means you booked a gig. And that means that you are on your way to being a film star. Even if it's a commercial, even if it's a walk online in a movie, even if it's just walking by in the background, you are still on your way to being a star. The casting agent will book you out. That's what it's called when they take you and they give you a job. You're booked out for however many days it takes to film. So some films may take 2 days to make your scene. Some might take an hour. It just really depends on the film, on what you're doing, on your exact role, all that stuff. Sometimes they add days and sometimes they don't. The important thing that they are trying to do is to do it in as little time as possible, because time is money, especially on film sets. And as we talk about the different elements and the different people and different things we have going on there, you will see that the money adds up. You know, the people they have to hire, craft services, just having things for you, having space for you, renting trailers, all that stuff adds up really fast. So their goal is to get it done as quickly as possible and, of course, as well as possible. I mean, they don't want to just put some crud up there. They really want it to look good. So your number one friend when you go to film is the second assistant director. Not the first assistant director, second assistant director. So put that in those 3 blanks. Okay, the night before, basically what they're going to do is they're going to call you the night before or text you or whatever system they have set up. And they're going to tell you where to be and exactly what time. Now, you will know like what city you're going to be in and the general area, but they will tell you specifically where to go the night before. The reason, and sometimes they don't call you till after 9 o'clock. The reason is they have to wait until they film their whole thing for the day. They've looked through the dailies and they've got it all down before they can say, okay, we'll be ready for John Jones at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Or maybe we're not going to get to him tomorrow until noon, so he doesn't have to show up until 10. So whatever time it is, that's when they let you know. So if you do book a gig, don't be freaked out going, oh my gosh, they haven't called me yet. It's 7 o'clock. Nope, they're not going to call you till late, like around 9. They'll give you the address. They'll tell you where you need to go. You can GPS it. Sometimes it's better if they give you an address. So if they tell you to go to Sealy High School, you might want to put in the GPS. You might not want to put in the GPS. You might want to ask them for the address or make sure you have the address. Because a lot of times people GPS Sealy High School and it takes them to the junior high because that used to be the high school. So you don't want to be at the wrong place just sitting there looking like an idiot. So make sure you have the address, not just the name of the location, but the actual address. The things that you need to take with you, not much. You need your ID because you have to prove who you are and they might need copies of that. You need comfortable clothes because you're going to be sitting around a lot. And so when you arrive, you have to have something on. Obviously, you can't arrive without clothes. And then you'll get your costume, but you need just to have something comfortable because you don't know how long till you get into your costume. You need a phone, obviously, because we can't go anywhere without our phones. And while you're there, you might get a call about another gig. So you need to be accessible. And something to read. There's a lot of sitting around times. You might want to have something to read. You should have your lines already that they gave you, so you can look over those, but I wouldn't count on being able to spend hours looking at lines. I would find other things to do. When you arrive, you go to base camp. Okay, base camp is where the trailers are. So in that blank, put trailers. It's basically the backstage part of the film. They have all kinds of trailers there. They have, of course, trailers for all the performers, the stars. They have a makeup trailer. They have a wardrobe trailer. The director will have a trailer. The producer will have a trailer. All the technicians will have trailers. So it's just it's called base camp, but it's a big section of trailers, whatever the trailers look like. And that's kind of where, it's kind of like a temporary building. Let me think. Do we have any in Sealy? I don't think we have any temporary buildings at any of our schools. Oh, it's like the She Shed right out here outside of the auditorium. Okay, that's what a trailer would look like. Okay, sometimes they're more like trailer like a RV, like a vacation trailer, but oftentimes they look like, depending on how long it's going to be there, they look like the she shed. They're like a building that's just sitting out there. Inside your trailer, you'll find your contract if you haven't signed it yet, which a lot of times you don't sign your contract till you get there. Your wardrobe, your schedule, and your lines. Okay, your lines are the words you're going to say on film today. Your lines are called mini sides, and they are going to be different from the script in the blank, from the script you were sent a few days before arriving on the set, because things change. They rewrite, they might come up with a better idea, something might happen in filming that they're like, oh, you know what we could do? We could use this, and let's do this with it, and let's change it around, and let's add this line, or let's make a line here, or we're just going a totally different direction for the story, whatever they do. So you always need to check your mini sides. Okay, the average time you film per day, the average amount of pages filmed, if you're doing a movie, you only film like 2 pages per day. If you're doing TV, which has a smaller budget, it's 6 to 8 pages because they've got to go fast and they want to get done as much as possible. And if you're doing an indie film, which is super low budget, they'll do like 12 to 15 pages a day because their goal is to get in there, get as much done as quickly as possible and move on. So you might find that you're there a lot longer just depending on what you're doing and if you're doing a film or if you're doing TV, if it's indie, just whatever it is. The script supervisor is the person who makes sure that you are saying your lines correctly. So you've got to memorize your lines. They're not going to mess around with you going, I can't remember, I'm so embarrassed. No, they're not going to mess around with that. The script supervisor will be on you like, no, the line is this, no, no, no. And you don't want to hear those no's. So make sure that they don't have to correct you. Okay, once you're there, you've got your sides, you see your wardrobe, you see your contract, you've set down your bag or whatever you brought your stuff in. You kind of do the next 6 things in whatever order they're going. It's not always in this order, but this is the general order. The first thing you do is sign your contract if you need to. The second thing is go to wardrobe and check the fit on your costume. So you'll put your costume on and you will go to wardrobe. And they will take it in, let it out, change the color, do whatever they need to do to make it look right for you. Then you're going to makeup, where they put on makeup. Pretty easy there. Fix your hair, that kind of stuff. Then you get breakfast. And this is a place called Craft Services. So in those lines, you put Craft Services. Craft Services is where you get your breakfast. It's where the food is all day. And so that's your best friend because it's free food. And like, don't we all love free food? And you're going to be there a long time. So make sure that you get that food early so that you have it. Now, don't be like a little hoarder rat and be taking it back to your trailer because that's kind of silly. You will always be able to go to Craft Services as much as you want. So you don't have to hoard the food, but you want to make sure that you eat because it might be your lunchtime and you might be in the middle of filming and they're not going to stop and say, oh, baby, are you hungry? No, you have to take care of that ahead of time or after a time. So make sure you get that lined up. Also, go over your lines. No matter how much you knew them the night before, it always pays to go over them repeatedly, to rehearse them, to just make sure they're going to be perfect because you want to be perfect when you go in. And finally, look at the schedule. The schedule is a rough idea of the order things are going to shoot in and its times. Now, on some films and on some sites, they are to the second, they don't delay, everything's perfect. Sometimes they're delayed, sometimes they get ahead. So you kind of need to know what order, because if you're filming this scene first and then later this afternoon you're going to film a different scene, then you need to work on this scene first. Then after that, you can work on your other scene. So you want to make sure that you're fresh and that you're really good. So you look at the schedule and you also want to know, okay, I have about 10 minutes or 30 minutes or 2 hours before I have to go. That's important to know. The second AD then is going to knock on your door and they're going to say, we're ready for you, which is kind of like when your heart kind of skips a beat because it's like, we're ready for you, Mrs. Moore. And then you know it's showtime. This is when the excitement happens. This is when you're actually going to get to do what you set out to do. There's a bunch of steps to shooting a scene. The first thing they're going to do is called block the action. We call that rehearsal, but they call it block the action. In theater, the term blocking is any prepared movement on stage or planned movement on stage. So when you block your scene, you're going to get it started and you're going to plan it out. Now, you are expected to show up with your lines memorized and with a character. That means you should be ready to play whoever or whatever you are cast in, whatever role it is. So remember those 5 questions we did earlier? at the beginning of the semester, those 5 questions you need to prepare for your piece so that you know what's going on, who you are, what's at stake, all of that stuff, so that when you go on and you kind of walk over to the set and you just bebop over and all of a sudden they're like, okay, time to act. Mother, where have you gone? Do you see how quickly you have to do it? I mean, it's maybe not that quick, but you have to be able to pull that character out. You have to know everything as soon as you get over there. So, oops, hello. So that is what you're expected, okay? Usually when you go to block the action, it's just you and whoever's in the scene and the director. It's not a lot of people around. It's just that. Sometimes there might be the first assistant running around, or there might be other people who have to do finishing touches on the set or anything like that. But that director is working just with you. This is your time. And this is really short. You're only going to read through it like 2 or 3 times. So it's a 2-minute scene or a 1.5-minute scene, and you're only going to do it 2 or 3 times. You're going to be there for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then they kick you off. Okay, they send you back to your trailer. And that's when you can also stop at craft services and get you a snack. Now, while you're gone, they're going to light the scene. This is when they put the lights up. And you can either wait in your trailer or hang nearby at craft services. Usually they'll tell you, okay, we're going to need you back in about 20 minutes. Or this is going to be about 30 minutes. Or, hey, we're going to fix this light and then we're ready to go. If they say fix this right and ready to go, light, and they'll be ready to go, then you do not run off. You stay right over there and you eat you a donut. Then you're going to rehearse on the set with cameras and lights. And sometimes this is filmed just so that they can see what it's going to look like and how you're going to do, especially if you're new to them and they need to know how you're really, 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 really going to look on film. Because we don't always really look on film like we do in real life. Like, I'm looking at my hair right now, and let me just tell you, it looks a lot better in real life than it does on this with this bad angle. Maybe it's the lighting. Yeah, see how much better it looks with this, with the adjusted lighting? So that's what they're going to do. They'll change the lighting. They'll be like, oh, her hair looks very halo and frizzy. Ooh, warm and cozy. We like this better. So that's what they do when they adjust the lighting. There's probably going to be about 20 people there. You're going to have the hair people, the makeup people, the lights, the costume, the sound people. There's a lot of people there who are going to be checking their things, and you just sit there and you do whatever they tell you to do. So for some of us, that's hard because we don't like doing what people tell us to do. But believe me, when you're getting paid, you can do what people tell you to do. Okay. Then they're going to tweak. Number 4 is they're going to tweak the lighting, the camera, acting, very minor stuff. You just kind of hang out. They might say, just stay there in that chair. You know, they might tell you exactly where to stand because it won't take long. The director, that's what goes in the blank, the director may speak to you if they have a note. If they want to say, okay, can you maybe be a little more aggressive in this scene? Or do you think you could cry here? Or how about if you punch him in the face? Whatever they tell you to do, you say yes, and you go with it and you try, even if it makes no sense to you, because remember, you don't know the director's vision, because the director is seeing the whole thing, whereas you're just seeing your tiny part. So you do what the director tells you to do. Then you shoot the scene. Woohoo! This is when we do it. And your goal is to do it in one shot. However, or one take. However, that doesn't always happen. So sometimes they do it over and over again. Sometimes one take is all you need. The cameras may be moved and the scene shot again. So they might film it this way from the camera looking straight at you. Then they might say, okay, now we're going to do an angle shot. So we're going to put the camera here, but you need to keep doing exactly what you were doing before. And that is where the script supervisor comes in and makes sure if you're holding your pen like this, that you're holding your pen like this in this shot. You're not going to be holding your pen like this because it'll show. So that is what the script supervisor's done. That's stuff that you have to keep in your head. Luckily, it is short and it's only a few minutes of movement that you actually have to remember and repeat. So the hard thing about that is to be patient. So in that last line, you need to put patient. Okay, then you're going to repeat throughout the day if you're doing more than one scene. If that's the only scene you're doing, then you go back to the trailer and you change clothes. At the end of the day, whether that's after one scene or 25 scenes, you change in your trailer, you sign out with the second AD. Remember that second AD. You need to make sure that you're friendly to everyone and that you say thank you. The film industry, especially in Texas, is a very small industry. So you cannot afford to irritate people or to be a diva or to be disrespectful. So being kind and being friendly and saying thank you and all that good stuff is super duper important. So you make sure you do that. And that, my sweet darlings, is the complete notes of On the Set. So now you know everything you need to know about a day of filming. I'm sorry if I talk too fast. It's kind of hard without looking at people. And when I play these back, I'm like, ooh, goodness, I was talking too fast because I don't have a director. Have a great Monday. Talk to y'all later. Bye.